Hi, this is Jeff. I'm the founder of the Virtual EMDR Eye Movement Therapy program. This is the second video that I'm doing in a series of videos about the science behind EMDR and the science behind the Virtual EMDR program, which is an online version of EMDR therapy that you can do without a therapist present. So really quick, before we begin, let me explain what EMDR therapy is. So EMDR stands for Eye Movement Desensitization and Reprocessing, but I prefer to just use the term Eye Movement Therapy because it's a lot more simple. It's a therapy approach that's been around since the late 1980s. Initially, when it was founded, it was used more for trauma and PTSD, especially with military veterans. But since then, it's started to be used for a lot more things like depression, anxiety, fears and phobias, grief and loss, or even problems with addictions. It's a really effective form of therapy. Virtual EMDR is an online version of EMDR therapy that lets you work step by step through the EMDR process on your own without the need for a therapist to be present. Okay, so let's get to the topic of today's video, and it's a question from Virtual EMDR client named Nick, and let's see what he has to say. Hi, Jeff. During our coaching session call, we focused on how to best use the Virtual EMDR program for the problems in my life, most of which come from my past, and I found this very helpful. During my coaching, we talked briefly about using Virtual EMDR for future events. Can you give me more info about this? Thanks, Nick. Well, thank you for your kind words, Nick, about using the Virtual EMDR program. So typically or historically, when you do an EMDR session, you're focusing on events that are either in the present or in the past that are causing you problems in your life. For example, you might be remembering and working through a horrible auto accident that you had and the anxiety that it causes you to feel now, or working through the abuse that you had in your childhood and how it's damaging the relationships that you're having as an adult. But over the past 30 years, EMDR has really evolved. Again, I said before that initially people were just using it for trauma and PTSD, but therapists have come up with new programs or protocols, as they're called, to use it for anxiety, depression, grief and loss, and a lot of other things. So in Virtual EMDR, when we came along, we really even changed this further because we allowed people to control the tempo and the pace and the frequency of their own EMDR sessions without a therapist there. And one of the things that this has done is allowed people to not just use EMDR to focus on things that are going on with them now, but to also focus on things that are going to be happening in the future that give them fear and anxiety. Some examples of this would be something like, upcoming you're going to be having surgery or seeing the dentist, or you have air travel upcoming and you're uncomfortable on airplanes. Speaking in front of an audience or any important social event where you really need to be at your best. Maybe it's something like you have to face your ex-husband in court and you feel a lot of fear about it. Or maybe you have to deliver a big project at work and you have a lot of anxiety about it. Another example would be getting the results of some kind of big medical test in the future. So let me go over the steps of how you would use Virtual EMDR to deal with a future event like this. First, when you're answering the questions in the Virtual EMDR program that you're using to create your session target, which is the problem or issue that you want to focus on using EMDR, just make sure that you answer the questions in regard to the future event instead of something in the present or past that is causing you pain or difficulty. So in every Virtual EMDR session, you're going to use the Virtual EMDR Eye Movement software 2 separate times. The first time you'll be focusing on the problems or issues that you want to deal with. And the second time that you use the software during your session, you're going to be focusing on how you would like things to be instead. So when you're using the Eye Movement Tool software for the first time, imagine yourself being there. standing in front of the group of people about to give the speech, or on the green at a golf course, feeling nervous about, sinking the putt, or imagine yourself being at the doctor's office, getting the results of the test, or standing in the courtroom in front of the judge and how nervous you feel about it. Or visualize yourself with your hands on the steering wheel of the car, and outside as you're driving, there's snow and ice on the road, and you're nervous about driving. So you can even use EMDR for future events to help with anxiety around sports or sexual performance or anything that would normally make you nervous. So when you use EMDR in this way, focusing on future events, and even if you just go through 2 or 3 short sessions of virtual EMDR before the event happens, you'll find that when you get to the event, show up at the medical appointment or have to, give the speech at work or whatever it is, you'll find that it's really a lot easier. It's like the volume has been turned down on the fear and anxiety that you used to feel about the event. In order to use virtual EMDR in this way, or to use virtual EMDR, frankly, for any way, I really encourage you to read and understand the instructions, especially when you're new to virtual EMDR. After you've been using the program for a little while, you could disregard the majority of the instructions because you know what's coming. But initially, it's important that you read and understand what it is that you're supposed to do while we're walking you step by step through the EMDR process. So if you have any comments on what we talked about, please leave them below. And it would be helpful to us if you like these videos, if you would click like and subscribe. The next video in this series is going to be about using EMDR or virtual EMDR to treat anxiety. The Virtual EMDR program has a special protocol that we've created, which is specifically designed to walk you step by step through the process of using EMDR for anxiety. So thank you for watching.